Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like Mac Voices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is to talk to the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're on the road to Macstock again this time. We're headed for July in Woodstock, Illinois, where we're going to get together with friends and attendees, and hopefully you. We would love to have you join us. If you want to know more about everything that's going on, please check out macstock2017.com or macstockconferenceandexpo.com. They'll both get you to the same place. We really want you to join us. This time, though, we're going to do something a little different. We've been talking to a lot of the speakers who are going to be presenting this year's Macstock. And, of course, we've talked to Mike Potter, the organizer, Barry Falk, the organizer of the Midwest Mac Mingle. But I thought it'd be interesting if we kind of took a step behind the scenes a little bit and let you know how things go. If you've listened to anyone that's been to Macstock talk about Macstock, you've heard them talk about how smoothly it runs, how well it's organized, and how everything just seems to come off like clockwork. One of the reasons that happens, at least from the speaker's perspective, is Mr. Brian Henson. Brian is a volunteer for Macstock, has been now, I guess, all 3 years, Brian?
Yes, that's correct, Chuck.
That's what I thought. Okay, so Brian is the one that's responsible for getting us on stage and off stage, or at least that's what I know him as. I don't know what else he does, and we'll find that out. So, Brian, welcome. It's great to have you.
I'm really excited to be here, Chuck. I'm a huge fan of Mac Voices. I listen to every episode, and I'm really excited to be on the show today.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to have you because, again, you're one of the guys that helps us get up on stage and do things, and do it in a convenient, not a convenient, but an efficient fashion. And so, yeah, talk a little bit about what all you do for Macstock. Is that your primary function?
That's my primary thing. You know, I know Mike Potter and Barry Falk, and I think they're two amazing individuals. And when I found out that they were getting involved with running the first Macstock, you know, I knew that Mike was going to have a lot on his plate. And I think being involved in events that I've organized before had nothing to do with the Mac community. I realized when you're the person that's in charge of an event like this, there's going to be so many things pulling at you. So I told Mike basically, I said, hey, maybe you want somebody to work with the speakers. If they need something, if they want some issues with a lavalier mic compared to a handheld or that, I can help out with that. I was really excited to work with obviously all the people that are speaking at Macstock, but meeting somebody like you, Chuck, has been outstanding. And so Mike said, sure, go for it. So my primary goal at Macstock is to, if you want to have smooth transitions for the speakers, if there's anything they need any help with, Chuck's a true professional. He's all prepared, but sometimes you'll have a speaker that might be a little nervous. You try to let them know everything's going to be great and okay. So any little thing that I can do just to make it a little more comfortable for the speakers so that they can get on and off stage with the kind of quick 20-minute format that Mike Potter decided to run with for the event.
And that's the thing. The things, one of the things I think a lot of us like about Macstock is that idea that, okay, if there's a topic that doesn't really apply to you, just wait 20 minutes. Go take, go get a drink or something, come back, there will be something coming up next. But that also presents a lot of challenges to move one speaker off the stage and another one on, especially since some speakers are doing live demos, some are doing keynote presentations, some are just doing none of the above. They maybe just have a physical product in their hand. So there are a lot of different demands on, and you seem to juggle them very, very well.
Well, I appreciate that. And, dealing with different personalities, too. I mean, I think one of the things that an attendee or someone that's listening to this may not realize is how much preparation goes into getting a presentation ready to go up there and do a 20-minute presentation. And it's even little things like making sure you got the right connectors for your MacBook, or that my MacBook Pro now is using this type of connector, and making sure that the technology person from the school that we have the event at is available if somebody's having some problems and stuff like that. And I think it's just making all those little things work that helps everything run more smoothly. And to me, as if people don't notice what I'm doing, everything's going good then. If they see me visible, a lot, then that could be a potential issue, so.
Well, you're the answer man. I mean, if I get up and, okay, Brian, I need this, or this is what I want to try to accomplish, as the on-site guy, I'm not going to say I expect you to. It's a volunteer operation. But I hope that you will be able to answer that, because I want to deliver a good presentation for the audience.
Oh, and you're right. And that's it, Chuck. I mean, I know that a speaker that's going up there is really concerned about their presentation and their perception, not only with the people that they're presenting to, but some of your peers. I mean, obviously, many of the people that are presenters at Macstock are podcasters. They have people there that they know that are their peers. And there's that element of saying, I'm prepared, and if there's anything I can do to help them with those unexpected things that will always come up, I really appreciate that as well. And if we can make something work that it didn't go as planned, I think that's really what I'm there for, is to help out with those little things.
And nothing ever goes wrong, right?
Well, and again, it's one of those things. It's the unexpected things that can come up, and you just try to roll with those things, and I don't think there's any way you can prepare. I look at your preparation the first year I saw you there. You had your laptop on your lap. You had your connectors. You were all set. So I knew Chuck was a pro. He was ready to roll. All I had to do is come in next to you, say, we're going to take you up in a few minutes, and you were ready to roll. And your presentations were two of my very favorite over the last couple of years. And I just think it's terrific. I mean, this has been one of the great things about Macstock, and I will point that out, is that if you go to a lot of these higher profile events, you are not going to see the presenter sitting in the audience watching the other presentations. And at Macstock, all the presenters are sitting there, and you could be sitting next to Chuck Joyner or Don McAllister or Allison Sheridan or anybody else. And it's funny because, like Brett Terpstra's coming in this year. Brett just was an attendee last year. So you can be sitting down with one of the so-called cool kids in the Mac community that's not only presenting, but maybe coming back the following year as a presenter, and have the opportunity to get to know those people on a really organic level. And I think that's one of the really exciting things about the event. And for me, being a volunteer, to even get to know some of the speakers or some of the people that want to be speakers, even on a more intimate level, has just been outstanding, and I love it. So
it is one of the great things about Macstock, because you're right. You sit in the audience, you sit down next to somebody, and you make friends. You can't help it. And then the next year you come back, and you get to see them again. Maybe you correspond with them in between. But yeah, it's sort of it's sort of an extended family thing. And I keep saying to people, because the issue of this being like a podcasters conference has come up, and it's something we're going to address on a future edition with the Mac jury. But I mean, that it is not a podcasters conference. It's a Mac conference. Mm-hmm. And it just so happens that a lot of the speakers have podcasts. But then again, there are a lot of podcasts out there by people that speak and don't speak. So
well, and the opportunity to get to know these people, and I'll give you a good example. Mike Schmidt, who's been on your show a couple of times, we're talking about the OmniFocus thing, and actually on the road to Macstock, which again, I think you've done such an outstanding job with that kind of, if you want to say, series that you've incorporated into some of the other stuff. But Mike's, one of his favorite stories, and I think he shared it on your podcast, was, I went to the first event, and there I was sitting next to Don McAllister, and he got a chance to interact with him. And Mike, it was a guy that I had never known until Macstock. Tremendous guy. Came back year 2 and he was a speaker. But, again, it's one of those things where you might be sitting next to somebody who's an unknown person that might have a special niche in the Apple community that if you, interact with them, you may even learn more than watching one of the, cool kid podcasters that may be actually up on the platform. So
that's it. And Mike has had, I think, a lot of demand for speakers. He can't take everybody, and so you're right. You sit down next to somebody, and they might know something about, I'm going to make it up. It's recipe tracking software. And that may be one of their specialties. And if you have an interest in it, all of a sudden, you've got this wealth of knowledge sitting beside you. Might not make the stage, might not make a deep dive, but it's there. And same thing sitting at lunch, and last year with the barbecue, this year with the Mac Mingle, you strike up conversations. You learn a lot about people, but you also you take a lot of information back that is useful. I mean, it's not as much fun as it is for you, for me, for all of those people. you still take away a lot of great, useful information that you can take back, implement, make yourself more productive, do whatever your projects are better, and theoretically improve your life, which is a pretty big goal.
And how technology works, and I'll give you a good example that hits close to home. The first time that I ever saw an iPad Pro used for a high-level production like you have, Chuck, was you had mounted basically outside of Macstock, the tent that we had there, and you were basically just ushering in various people that you knew, and you were recording for MacVoices. And it was awesome. A matter of fact, I remember it was several episodes ago, you were wrongly accused of actually karaokeing, but no, you were actually podcasting. And one of my favorite parts of one of your recent episodes, I wish I knew which episode it was. I should have went back and looked, but you could actually hear Don McAllister singing Back in the USSR in the background while you were podcasting. Mm-hmm. So that was your definite out. You've got digital evidence that you were not up there karaokeing at the Midwest barbecue that Barry Falk puts together. But seeing that iPad Pro and the way you were utilizing it with, obviously you could see the recording going on the screen, I just thought, wow, the iPad Pro really is a real deal, travel studio device. And I never really looked at it. I always thought you'd take your MacBook along and you'd have, your various setup that you'd have there. But it really opened my eyes watching you do that it really was a true, studio recording device. And so there's little things that you can take away that have nothing even to do with the presentations.
Yes, yes. And Don singing Back in the USSR, actually. Sorry, Don. Sorry if you see this. Sorry, Don. Well, let's first hit this year's Macstock. Any surprises? Anything that you, from your perspective, with what you're going to be doing, that's going to be different or unique? Present any extra special challenges for you?
Well, it's always interesting. For me, I think working with the speakers, I think there's going to be longer formats. This year. It's going to be interesting to see how that's going to work. And one of the things I did share with Mike, and I'll just put it out here, I think it's very different, and you can probably relate to this too, Chuck, of preparing a 20-minute presentation compared to presenting a longer one. I think it's easier for somebody, and again, everybody's talked about, it being a podcaster thing. I think you have people that are comfortable being on stage that tend to be podcasters, that putting together a 20-minute presentation, it doesn't seem insurmountable. If you get into a longer presentation, you have to put a little more work into that and thought to, if you want to say keep your audience and that type of thing. I think it's one of the things that you pointed out. If there's a topic that you may not be interested in, you're 20 minutes away from the next topic. And I think it'll be interesting to see how the longer formats go. One of the things I encourage Mike to do, and I'm hoping that they're successful again this year, is the deeper dives. I remember that last year that I thought those were really great. I remember, obviously one that's just in the cafeteria area where it was all the camera equipment that Wally had, who was recently on your show. And that was just terrific, because I think he was surprised at how much interest people had in his stuff and his setup, being with his background in photography. And I think coming out of his presentation, somebody was just interested in just talking to him about, well, what about this and what do you do here and that type of thing. And I really thought that worked really well. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be interesting to see the way that the great exchange thing is going to work that Mike's got this year, where you can bring all your old Macintosh and Apple type stuff and you can just trade it out. It'll be interesting to see the way that's going to work. But that's one of the things that I have great respect for what Mike's doing, is he's trying to do different things, come up with the different ideas, keep it fresh, but keep some of the things that have definitely worked for Macstock that really makes it a great event.
And that's one of the best things I think about a young conference like this, is you are trying to find the things that work. You're trying to find the things that maybe didn't work quite as well as you'd hoped. And so you abandon those, or at least put them on the shelf and try something new. And Mike is trying a number of new things this year. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I know, judging by the speakers that are going to be there and judging by the people that I already know are going to be there, it's going to be a great time. And my biggest challenge is I want to do the deeper dives. I want to be in the main session. I hope to be doing some interviews again. So I want to be 3 or 4 places at once, and I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Well, that's the best part about the conference. I think some people, I think the one thing I would emphasize to anybody who hasn't been to the event, there are people that listen to a lot of podcasts like MacVoices or Allison Sheridan Show or For Mac Eyes Only with Mike Potter. And when you normally go to events, the people that have kind of that kind of celebrity status with you aren't accessible. At Macstock, they're completely accessible. You can sit down right next to them at the social events, which changes every year. I mean, and that's one thing that's transitioned. I mean, the first year we were at Barry Falk's house, which was amazing. And I mean, he's got a wonderful house, and it was outstanding. It was one of my favorite things about that Macstock was going to Barry's house and just interacting with everybody there. Last year, obviously, we were on campus where the event was. This year, we're moving off campus again, but closer by, so there's not as much travel. But at those type of events, everybody is accessible. I don't know of anybody who's standoffish at those particular events. And I would say that if you kind of go with an agenda as an attendee of thinking, you know what, I'm a big fan of Chuck Joyner's podcast, or I really like this particular show, and I always wondered about this. They'll interact with you, and there's delight on both ends. To be perfectly honest with you, from being able to interact with your fans. I think one of the challenges with being a podcaster is you broadcast this stuff out there, and you have a very small vocal group that gives you feedback. But at a conference like Macstock, people that aren't the ones that are tweeting you every week or sending you, emails saying, I like this part about the show or I didn't, you get to interact with them at a very organic level too. And I see it as kind of a cool kind of give or take between the presenters and an audience that hasn't really had a chance to interact with them in person. And I think that's great too.
It was the way Macworld was, and I know we constantly bring up Macworld, but I also think it's the way so many conferences are. Depends on what their exact focus is. If it's a developer conference, they're the rock star developers. The general Mac using public may know some of them. They may not know some of them, but certainly the developers know which ones have that rock star status. Some aspire to it. Some just want to be there to kind of hope that some of it rubs off. But same thing for, software developers, hardware vendors, the whole thing. But Macstock has turned into something special, I think. And you're right. I think at this point, because it is still comparatively small compared to, some of like CES or NAB, everybody is accessible to everyone else. And there are no strangers. They're just people you haven't met yet.
Yeah, and the quality of the people that are there. I think of Brett Terpstra last year, who was recently on your show as well. And, Brett, it was very interesting. He's a very kind of low-key individual. But, obviously there were people coming up, interacting, and it was kind of cool to see that vibe. And I was really excited when Mike told me that Brett was coming back this year as a speaker. He was just an attendee. He just came and hung out last year, which was really cool. And it's nice to have him back as a speaker now. But, somebody like that, if you had Tim Cook or Johnny Ive or something like that at like WWDC, they have no accessibility to you. Matter of fact, it's going to be very difficult to even shake their hand and say, I love Apple Computer. But, all the presenters, and these are very knowledgeable, cool people in the Apple community, but they're still very accessible. And to me, that's the magic of Macstock too, is the accessibility of it. Again, hanging out at the Midwest Mac Barbecue with Barry Falk, who's just an amazing human being. I love Barry. But what he was able to do with getting these types, of individuals, quality people that are all excited about Apple products, I just think is terrific.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first year, who was it? Gaz and Guy, I think, were doing their podcast from Barry's dining room. It's inviting anybody to come in and say hello. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing that's really cool about it. If you really want to see, not that you want to be a Mac podcaster, and that's an interesting point. One of the things I will say, and Chuck, you've been a perfect example. I remember when we did the panel discussion in the first one, and we talked about podcasting, and all of you were very encouraging to other people. It wasn't like you were standoffish about, if you want to do a podcast, you would be able to do it. And you actually encourage people. I don't know if you're excited about having 500 new Mac podcasts out there, but the one thing is the openness, and there wasn't any like, oh no, we're the Mac podcasters and I've been doing this for 500 episodes, so you should just not even think about something like that. I can remember, I think it might have been Allison Sheridan who actually said, who couldn't make it last year, if you got something you want to talk about, there's a place for you. And I really think that's exciting. Another thing about it is that, maybe if you're interested, not necessarily in starting a Mac podcast, but maybe something on cooking or something like that, I think the resources that are there with the caliber of presenters that have so much knowledge about things is absolutely incredible. I really do.
So let's send folks away with something maybe that they can use. I don't know about you in your workday, but I end up, for better or worse, having to sit through a lot of presentations. Some of them I enjoy. Most of them drive my blood pressure up because they are just not well done at all. I mean, it's a classic example of giving somebody the tools and they don't know how to build the house. But from your perspective, helping those presenters get on and off stage, making sure that they are able to make their best appearance in whatever fashion they can. You're the guy that helps them. What would you say to speakers coming to Macstock? What would you say to speakers in general that are going out to the local, I don't know, Rotary Club to do a presentation? What kind of advice would you give them to help them look better?
Well, the one thing I would say is this, and this has been refreshing. One of the things that when I was very young, I'm a lot older now, I was involved with a lot of, if you want to say, personal development presenters. I did back behind the scenes stuff with guys like Anthony Robbins, who was doing the fire walk back then. He's very well known. Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, who's very known especially in the real estate sales community. And we started doing a lot of these, if you want to say, people that were trying to emerge to be the next star. And I would say one thing about that particular group is those people took themselves very, very seriously. And I would say, as a speaker, don't take yourself so seriously. And I think that's been the one thing that's been exciting about working with the Macstock presenters, is that they're not paranoid about every little tiny thing, because sometimes that paranoia as a speaker, it one, shows in the presentation, and two, it does turn you into a challenging person to actually work with. So, that's the one thing I would say is just, as a speaker, come prepared. And then secondly, don't take yourself so seriously. Fortunately, the Macstock speakers are awesome about that. And I think, everybody's really professional. I think most people know what they want to do for their presentation. They're prepared, but they're not the type that, is going to micromanage every little thing. And, there's been other conferences I've seen in the Apple community that do have people that sweat all the little details, and I think it makes it difficult. I think on the flip side of it, as somebody coming to Macstock, I think there's a lot of advice I would give too, in the sense of what expectations would be. One is, if you're a fan of a couple of podcasts, listen to these in advance so you get to know the people. One of the things that I do in preparation for my role is I listen to everybody that has a podcast that's speaking, at least a couple of their episodes. And for me, it's been interesting. It's like MacVoices. I'm now a regular, I listen all the time, and I'm a fan beyond Macstock. There's other ones I've just listened to just to get to know the person. And I admit that you can only listen to so many podcasts in a week. And obviously, if you want to be more diversified, you can only listen to so many Apple podcasts. But I would say that it gives you an opportunity to be exposed to so many different things in the Apple community. And I found that the last couple of years of Macstock have even shifted my listening list, in my podcast player of choice, which is Overcast. Of kind of who I want to listen to. But I would say that is just maybe come in and don't expect any like high-end technical support, like how you can get your, SE30 to run Sierra or anything like that on there, because you're probably not going to be able to get a lot of help. But if you've got questions, you'll probably be able to find somebody that's kind of in their wheelhouse, that's actually at Macstock. And you'll have an opportunity to interact with a lot of these people at a really personable, really cool level. And I think that's exciting too.
You make a good point that, it's not exactly a problem-solving conference. It's more of an information conference. But yeah, if you have a problem, don't come, expecting to find out, what's wrong with your Epson printer that is 25 years old. But, if you have an issue that you're struggling with, something you're trying to accomplish or want to accomplish and want to know how to do it or want to know maybe the best tools, yeah, there's bound to be somebody there with strong opinions and some guidance. So that's
and
good
a good
advice.
example is the first Macstock. That's when the new, the MacBook Nothing, as a lot of people are calling it. And the first time I saw one in person was at the first Macstock, to be perfectly honest. So I saw a gold one there, and I looked at it, I'm like, wow, look at that. It's so small and it's so light and it looks like an iPad and all that type of stuff. What's interesting is, compared to going into an Apple store and playing around with it, you can actually talk to people that have that type of technology, that are actually there. So you can get informed decisions on things. Like now, if somebody's considering like a MacBook Pro with a touch bar, I guarantee you're going to interact with a lot of people who have MacBook Pros with touch bars, or at least MacBook Pro touch bar opinions there that can give you different perspectives on it. So I think you can get information that you wouldn't be able to get if you just walked into an Apple store and talked to one of the people, the very helpful people at the Apple store for 15 or 20 minutes while you're playing around with the machine. And, you can get advice too. I look back at your first presentation when you basically said, don't expect that your iPad is going to be your Mac. Don't expect that your iPhone is going to be able to do your iPad, and certainly don't think that your Apple Watch is going to be able to do what your Mac can do. And, it's little things. That's one of the themes that I've always taken home from your message as well. And I look at all the people now today that are trying to make their iPad Pro effectively into their Mac computer, some more successful than others. But there's little things like that I think you can take home that are unexpected as well, that I find it is, if you're interested in Apple computers, it's hard to not take something really significant away from these conferences, whether it be friendships, advice, or if you want to say technical. I mean, I'll give you a good Mike Schmidt's presentation too. I'm a big OmniFocus user. The first time that I realized you could use MindNode and basically take a MindNode mind map and basically suck it into OmniFocus was Mike Schmidt's OmniFocus presentation. And I'm like, whoa. So sure enough, now I went out to the Apple store. I got our App Store. I got MindNode, and I use it all the time with the OmniFocus. If it wasn't for attending Macstock and seeing Mike Schmidt, that would have been, who knows what my workflow would be on that type of thing. And I love it now that I can mind map and just suck it right into OmniFocus. So there's all these little things that you can pick up.
Yeah, there you go. A life-changing experience. One last question. When are you running for office?
Well, you know what? I want to switch this around a little bit too, because I thought you might want to take an opportunity. You've got one of the great topics available, and I thought it might be cool that if somebody's listening and maybe for whatever reason they can't come to Macstock this year, maybe there's still something that they can kind of extract out of this podcast. And maybe we should have done this at the beginning instead of the end, because maybe they're not even here anymore. But do you want to talk a little bit? Because you do all this road to Macstock. You talk to everybody about their topic, and no one asks you about what you're doing. And I have to admit, you're doing an awesome topic, even for somebody who's not going to attend Macstock this year. So do you want to let it out of the bag? Is it ready to go? Or
Okay, well, it's always how it is until you hit the stage. It's always a work in progress. But I'll take you up on that in a very simple fashion. It's just that I see so many people. It's a fascinating experience to watch other people use their computers, the way they use them, because you so badly want to reach over to the trackpad or the mouse and say, here, you can do just this, and it'll make your life so much better. So I'm going to try to focus on some of the things that Apple and some of the third-party utilities give you that will make you more productive, or could make you more productive. My focus is going to be, a little selfishly, on what the kind of customization I do to my Finder and my machine to be more productive. But I like to think that I'm not that unusual, with the possible exception of the video production part. There's so many little utilities out there and little tips and tricks that will make you do certain things every single day. Sometimes several tens, maybe hundreds of times a day, when you really don't need to, when there's a workaround. And so I'm hoping to show some of that kind of thing. It's not going to be, I don't think, any earth-shaking thing. And I don't think it's going to change your life like Mike Schmidt's did for Brian, but it feels like something that needs to be talked about, and I haven't seen it done yet at Macstock exactly that way. So I'm hoping it'll be something that people take a little bit away from. I mean, my intent is to try to not dive deep into any one particular tip or trick or piece of software or whatever, but just to make people aware that, okay, this is what you can do. And did you remember? Because I think a lot of this stuff, maybe you remembered it, you knew at some point and you've forgotten. And I'm not going to give any examples because I don't want to give anything away. But there's stuff that I guarantee you that you've forgotten, that if you stop and think about it, it might just fit into your workflow now. So thank you for asking. Thank you for
Well,
asking.
yeah, and that's exciting because I look forward to this. Like last year, I think one of the best presentations that was unexpected for me was the preview presentation that was done by, and I know he's been on the show and he's a good friend of yours, and his name eludes me now, and I feel so Victor, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Caciel, right? Kyle. Okay.
Okay.
See, you know what? And it was funny because I was listening to you when you had him on, like, okay, how did Chuck pronounce it? And I screwed it up. Victor, I'm sorry. By the way, one of the great things that I took home from last year, and I was a legitimate winner of this, Victor recorded a jazz CD. And I'll tell you this, okay? He's a tremendous musician. I listen to a lot of instrumental stuff when I work. So, Victor, I love your jazz CD. It's in my repeat playlist, and I like listening to Victor's music. And it's terrific. And I was a unexpected door prize winner of one of Victor's CDs that he sent me, and he was great, and it was awesome. But getting back to his presentation, I know that there's a lot of PDF stuff out there, and PDF Pen Pro is the sponsor of the show, and that is awesome, and I use it every day, and I'd recommend that anybody who listens to the show, if you have PDF needs, look at PDF Pen Pro. But watching his presentation on Preview, I thought, I never knew some of that stuff was baked into Preview, and some of the stuff that you'd think you'd need to buy an expensive Adobe software or even investing in a modestly more investment in a PDF Pen Pro, you can do some of that stuff with Preview, So I thought that was terrific. And those are some of the things that I think are also unexpected. And that's what I'm hoping for in your presentation as well. This is going on a little tangent. Mike Potter and I go around on what I call convenience apps. He likes to be very, if you want to say, if there's something you can do within the operating system, he likes to do it that way. I'm notorious for going onto the App Store and downloading a $2.99 app that makes my life easier. I've got one that does screenshots. And Mike's like, all you need to do is a keyboard shortcut. But I love this little app that I use, and it's great. And for me, it was worth the $2.99 I invested on it because it works for me. So, I'm looking to see what Chuck Joyner's doing, and I'm really excited about this because I think your topic is one of the great ones that somebody can always pick something out of. And even if it's kind of like, well, I didn't even know you could make that tweak, or I didn't even know that app existed, so.
Well,
yeah.
I hope I don't disappoint you, but
your presentations have been great. I mean, I will admit you've hit it out of the park 2 years in a row.
Oh, great! Thanks,
There's
Brian.
no getting around it.
Now you set me up. Well, listen, tell folks where they can find you when you're not volunteering at Macstock. You've social media presences?
I don't have a ton. I've got a Twitter account that I post occasionally. It's funny. A lot of times it's just sending out like little tweets to like the Mac mommy, Melissa, who's going to be back again, or Allison Sheridan, or tell Chuck how much I like this particular show and stuff like that. But I don't really have a huge social media presence. I'm glad you asked. I'm not really promoting anything. I have some things that I do outside of the Apple community, but like my day job is being a high school conference commissioner. There's not much to promote with that. I have a tax business as well, but I'm pretty comfortable with the level of clients I have. So I'm probably one of the guests that comes on your show that actually says, well, I don't really have anything to promote, but if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm on Twitter. I'll get that information to Chuck. He can put it in the show notes. I don't even know what my Twitter handle is. I feel bad about that. I should be like one of these. I have a Twitter, and on LinkedIn I'm here, and it's that. But I'll get that out to Chuck, and then we'll make sure that if somebody wants to get a hold of me, they definitely can.
Well, I tell you what, regardless of what you're promoting or not promoting, we all really appreciate, I'll speak for all the speakers, we really appreciate what you do and how easy you make it for us to get up there and do our thing. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you again this year, and hopefully we will all be able to deliver something that the audience will enjoy. So thank you.
And I love the event. It's quality people like you that really make it happen. And the quality of the presenters and the quality of the people there, I think, are absolutely amazing. All the way down from Mike Potter and Barry Falk. I mean, they truly are. Barry Falk has been amazingly amazing at all these different events I've gone to. Mike Potter is a tremendous human being. I have so much respect for both of them. And that's just flowed into the people that he likes to work with. And the quality of people that are involved in this it's just exciting for me. I look forward to it every single year. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, Chuck, along with many of the other speakers, and I'm thrilled to be on the show because, like I said, I'm a fan of the podcast. So this is awesome for me too.
Well, it's great to have you, and I appreciate giving some of the advice because I think that is important, and it's good advice too. You're right. If you take yourself too seriously, you create stress not just for yourself but for everybody around you. So.
Yeah, and people that are thinking about coming to realize that these are people that they're going. I mean, if you come in, if you're a very introverted individual and you're going to sit and watch the presentations and think people are going to come up to you and try to break you out of the shell, this probably isn't the right environment for you in many cases, unless you want to get something out of the presentation. But I will say this: I can't imagine somebody who is, is interested in Apple computers, that likes interacting with other Mac nerds, that wouldn't just have a rip-roaring good time at this. And I will say this: it's, you can do this for 1/10 of the cost of going to WWDC or anything similar. So that's another thing.
Is that the truth? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and again, everybody's really accessible there too. So, it's been an outstanding event. I really love it.
Well, I will see you in Chicago, or Woodstock more accurately, in July. Looking forward to it.
I am looking forward to it too, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the road to Macstock and having all the rest of the speakers coming on board, because I think this is tremendous what you're doing.
Thank you.
Like I said, you put out a tremendous amount of content. It's amazing, Chucky. I admit I'm in awe. So
a lot of good people to talk to. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Again, the road to Macstock. That means Macstock, Macstock2017.com. Get registered. Get your hotel, join us at Woodstock. We're going to have a great time, and I promise you, as Brian said, you're going to take away something. You will not leave empty-handed. There's just no way, not with the presenters that Mike and his crew have put together. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard, that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.